Hello and welcome to Qualifier number 13 of the ALTTPR 2021 tournament. Today we are going to be featuring Flipheal and GanonsGoneWild. I am Zethno and I will be here with Sailor Nap. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great. I'm looking forward to an exciting qualifier race here. We're getting down to the last few, and it's going to be very interesting to see how these last results turn out.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how things have been panning out. In case we have some viewers with us that haven't seen any of the other qualifiers, we will be on standard mode and hard pool. Standard mode meaning that they will have to clear escape first, and hard pool is the big kind of impact on this particular race. We will have maximum 14 hearts, maximum green mail, maximum tempered sword, maximum fire shield, and no silver arrows. Out of all of that, what is the worst impact or hardest impact to deal with, Sailor Neb?
It can depend on the seed, but I know for some people it's going to be the lack of the armor upgrades. But that tends to mostly apply to jet seeds. If you get a seed that's really fast, sometimes you'll suddenly find yourself on a low heart count and starts to feel almost like a spoiler race. And so you have to make sure you keep your cool in GT. If you have a Master Sword, or even if you're really unlucky, perhaps still looking for that Master Sword in general, that can make the climb a little difficult.
Yeah, I always, that is definitely the hardest impact for me. The green mail on some bosses can be huge. Bosses starting to do 4 hearts of health when you only have, say, 6 to 8 hearts. If you take 2 hits, you're just going to die, and you have nothing to stop that. Hey, we got a bomb. That was fast.
So for some runners, that'll be a nice tool to help them deal with escape enemies if their weapon runs out or something. For others, that's going to be a free 100 rupees, because that's a gold bee.
Oh, that definitely helps. I just like getting a bottle early because it allows us to check sick kit the first time we're there, instead of having to come back later.
And speaking of resource management, we have 10 bombs, so everyone's not going to have to farm for bombs tonight. However, we'll be looking at an interesting display of skill here. You have to make sure you do your bomb technique correctly. There are lots of setups that people use, some a little more conservative, some require a little more precision. And we have a map check on Flipheal's side. We have a red pendant on Hera, and a regular crystal on Eastern, and then one of the red crystals is on Desert.
Bombs is definitely one of the harder starts in my opinion. The big thing is if you know how to do it, it's not that bad. If you have your preset and you have your idea of how you want to do this. But if you get surprised by bombs and you're trying to learn it as you go, it can be quite difficult.
Yeah, and we're seeing GGW here, GanonsGoneWild, using one of the safer strategies, tossing a bomb south to the guard and then setting the other one on the chest, so that it will take damage from it by manipulating its chase. Flipheal actually using the same setup there, and both managing it nicely.
The one really nice thing with getting bombs immediately is that you don't have to worry about bomb drops.
Yeah, that's definitely a relief for a lot of runners. As long as you can deal with the challenge, which both runners seem to be handling it well so far. It's just nice, not stressful, and you don't have to worry about it. And you'll even have a few left over for Kakariko if you manage them optimally. So both runners have managed not to waste any bombs so far. They're going to be heading downstairs where they'll be using the pots to deal with all the enemies. A ball and chain guard will die to 2 pots due to the fact that thrown pots will do tempered sword damage. I appreciate seeing in chat very confident speculation as to the location of the bow, claiming there will be a bow in Pendant Mire. If that ends up being correct, I'm going to be very impressed.
It's always very interesting making some big comments early. It's easy to make some guesses, and it's always fun. So we will keep an eye on chat if there's anyone there that wants to make any guesses.
So both runners in a comfortable position heading into the back. There's one more enemy to fight, and that's the Key Rat, which that can be a little scary. But with 5 bombs and plenty of health, they're going to probably be okay with that.
Yeah, that's definitely okay. It's really nice that you don't. The only thing that you do need to kill in the back is that rat, but.
And since they have bombs, we will get to see the back 3 items. So far, not much to comment on in the way of items, though. Just finding $50 in the Dark Cross chest. I believe I said dollars instead of rupees.
That's. I'm sure everybody watching this understood what you meant.
And GanonsGoneWild managed to successfully take out that darn key rat with just 1 bomb. Does unfortunately get bonked by a rat in the next room, dropping 1, but that's okay. Still going to be heading out of escape with 2 bombs to spare. Finding a sword in the secret area. And more to the point, the sink chest will get open because that map did show up back there.
And as we're exiting escape, the big thing is going to be that we can now potentially see some route divergence. I don't really foresee which one is which. Or, sorry, which one that this will happen because everyone will likely head over to Kakariko. Sorry about that. And we got Glove.
And for any runners who did have some unfortunate bomb management, which probably won't be many, if at all, that glove will probably be relief to those few.
An early
So
glove
both
is always nice. Oh, I was just going to say it makes me feel a little happier because we're less likely to end up having to do AGA.
So the lack of interesting items in escape pretty much sets both runners on the path not to diverge away from the Kakariko play, which that's not too surprising most of the time, but sometimes you get some interesting stuff that makes you want to change it up, and that's not happening here.
It's interesting, Flipheal actually went and picked up the 20 rupees in Lost Woods.
Yeah, that's an understandable thing to do. Sometimes you don't know just how much of resources you're going to need early in the run. You can be confident and assume you'll not need stuff and save those few seconds, but it's not bad to just go ahead and get it just to be safe.
For sure. The big thing that I look at is whether I have the 100 rupees required for the bottle vendor up front. That way, if I don't have it, I'm definitely going out of my way to get those rupees right up until I get 100.
Yeah, and now we'll also get to see here, with the sword, I expect to see both runners take the opportunity to just sell their good B, which will get them an extra 100 rupees on top. And they have already found the mids, that's worth noting. So we could be seeing some fairly fast Dark World access here, as long as the Pearl isn't anywhere too troublesome.
Now, can you imagine if that Pearl is somehow sitting on Pyramid Ledge and we still have to do Ega even though we have Mitts?
And with Akane Samaria, we're starting to get a picture of possibility of maybe some interestingly deep dungeon dives early. Depending on what shows up, even an early Ice Palace dive could be incentivized, but we don't know enough yet to be sure of that.
Oh, Canis Samaria. I missed that on GanonsGoneWild side. But a cane is very nice. It helps us with a few glitches that I'm going to assume both these runners actually know.
And now we have the Bombus Medallion on the bottle vendor, so we're getting a little bit of a kit here, and a second sword as well. That doesn't really necessarily mean much logically. I would expect the Pearl to be somewhere fairly mundane, but you never know. What is interesting is with this kit, you don't necessarily have a lot that will let you clear dungeons or thoroughly explore the overworld in the Dark World. So, even if the Pearl were to show up in the next 2 or 3 checks, I'd still expect a lot of the players in this race to be conservative and fill out a lot of the Light World overworld checks first to get a better picture of what they're working with.
For sure. I think one of the only times that I see runners go in this early with this kind of a situation is if they also had Mirror to try to do some of those checks together.
And now we've actually found a flute at the last minute in Kakariko, so they're going to be heading back up to get that activated, and that'll let them zip around and check things a lot more quickly.
Yeah, early flute is a lot like early boots. It's really nice just to be able to move around the map a little bit faster.
Early flute can also potentially be a little troublesome when you're in a large group race, because it makes some people, myself sometimes included, want to skip places like Agina or Ice Rod Cave, or at least put them off for a while. And if you end up finding a lot of things, sometimes you just convince yourself to keep at it. And if there's something important early there, that can make or break the run for you. But I'd expect to see a lot of people just be careful and get them anyway.
That's true. One of the nice things with it, as you mentioned, Ice Rock Game, there's a sword on Race Game. GanonsGoneWild used the flute and then registered that it was a sword and decided, nope, I want that sword.
Yeah, and both of those runners kind of having to dodge that bird, which shows that they're trying to squeeze every second out that they can, which is a very good thing to do. You know, a lot of the time you're just going to see something you don't want, so if you play that flute in advance, then by the time you've confirmed it, you can just let go and fly away. But not tonight, so we've got early tempered. That's actually going to be really comfy for a lot of the players. No MS Ganon tonight, that's for sure.
Yeah, just as we were talking about at the starting of this race, that hard pool can put you in some awkward situations with low health and low armor, but also a low sword, and make things difficult. We get a very early tempered sword. Flipheal is also doing the Agina check early, so I think this is the other side of the coin of what you mentioned. Some runners will do Agina earlier now that they have the flute, because it's faster to get over there. Whereas others will do, as you mentioned, and just ignore it for a while, knowing you can get back pretty quickly at some point.
Yeah, with having mitts already, I might be tempted to put off Agina just a little bit in case Mirror shows up in the next few minutes, but it's totally fine to just check it here. So just finding a piece of heart. Flipheal is at least assured that there's no major item to worry about, can just move on and not have to think about that location anymore. That itself can be worth it.
Oh, for sure. Having that one-off location that you start wondering later in the game, did I just miss something really early that was initially available that all the other runners have, and now I'm behind? And then you start, but some runners can get in their head a little bit with that, saying, well, since I didn't check it earlier, I'm still going to put it off because I'm going to lose if it's there anyways.
So there wasn't much of note inside of Mini Moldrum Cave itself. However, there was a nice 300 rupees, so these runners aren't likely to be wanting for money for the run. Maybe it's possible that more might be wanted for a potion later on in the game. However, you're likely to just incidentally get that kind of money by the time you're really going to want it.
Yes, and we're going to get our first look at Saha's closet, this room behind the wall here. And Misery Myers, our green pendant.
So I believe it was Chimo in chat who said that there would be a bow and pendant mire, and we got the pendant mire part to happen. So
Oh
maybe
no.
Chimo will prove to be quite prophetic.
That's not a place I'd like to see Bo. So I guess one thing of note, without having Bo, we did see GanonsGoneWild flute away from Eastern after doing those checks. I think. Oh, we're getting a map check.
So the final pendant's Skullwoods, and the other red crystal is on Palace of Darkness. GanonsGoneWild actually getting to show what I was talking about a moment ago with being able to route things together with Mirror. We'll get just a little bit of routing efficiency that Flipheal won't be able to. But like I said, that's a small loss.
For sure, you make that choice, and if something was in Agina's cave, for example, Flipheal would have had an advantage for a short period in this game. But if Mirror was locked farther behind, you could end up with a relatively large advantage. You never really know in a rando game. Boots lock desert.
Everyone playing rando long enough will know that sometimes they think, well, I'm going to wait until I have item X to check location Y, and then item X is at location Y. It's like, well, that's tough. And we are finding that desert is boot locked tonight with just a compass in the map chest. So GanonsGoneWild will be heading out, and we're going to see Checkerboard Cave in a moment.
As you were saying with the items in the dungeons where you don't want to check, it made me think of how often it feels that Ice Rod somehow ends up in Turtle Rock, and you never really want to go into Turtle Rock without Ice Rod. Or try to clear it, at least. Oh!
Oh, wow. And so that's a very nice find for GGW.
The key to finishing Desert was right outside Desert.
Yep, still won't be able to fight the boss yet, but now GanonsGoneWild can head straight back and at least get the big key and maybe an item or two.
The nice thing about this dungeon is really how fast you can get to the back later once you get that fire source to be able to finish it.
Yeah, double dipping desert here is not going to be a problem with the boots, the mirror, the mitts, the flute. That's you just go back whenever you feel up to it.
We are seeing Flipheal do some mountain checks. I missed what was in Spectacle Rock, but we are about to find out. Oh, it was
well, I would say that one's a little important. So now in some ways, Flipheal's route is going to be kind of interesting without having headed over to Checkerboard Cave. Is going to be missing the boots for a while, but we'll be able to immediately check an in-logic mire shed and make decisions from there.
And Flip is headed over to the right area of the map for that. I do want to mention that there's one thing we haven't mentioned yet and was asked in chat. We do have 78 runners tonight in this particular race. And good luck to all the runners. Well, map.
To answer the chat's question, the mirror was in Sahasrarla's closet. So this is actually a little unfortunate for Flipheal, not getting that mirror yet and having the pearl. If Flipheal decides to charge into the Dark World without visiting Sahasrarla first, it's going to be a while before they get those boots. GanonsGoneWild, meanwhile, still hasn't found the pearl, but will likely be getting it soon. Going to be doing the boots checks first, getting King's Tomb, likely Bonk Rocks, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a check of the Lumberjack Cave. And yeah, this is unfortunate for Flipheal. Heading into the Dark World, totally sensible play, but still going to be missing out on that mirror for now.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. There's so many items in the Dark World that are available, and I assume that he's thinking that he'll fit in Saha's closet with Eastern eventually once he has a bow.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of different opinions from runners on what to do in a spot like this. Some people prefer to clear out the early, easily accessible checks. Some prefer to be more aggressive, and so we're kind of seeing both sides of that coin here tonight, which is fairly interesting. It could very well have been a set of item placements where Flipheal's play would be playing off more, and depending on what shows up, that could easily swing back the other way. There's still plenty of seed to go.
That's one of the important things to remember when watching randomizer races. I feel that people try to decide who's in the lead very early, and it's very hard to know that sometimes, because depending on where the items are and which order our runners continue to check the items in, the kind of quote-unquote lead can change quite often. So nothing important in Ice Rod Cave. They're on GanonsGoneWild side. We do have the water walk into Waterfall Cave. GanonsGoneWild did decide to skip the hobo check. The waterfall fairy gives us a good B. We're about to get a Zora check. Do you think it'll be a scam tonight? A single arrow. 500 rupees for a single arrow. Not a good deal for GanonsGoneWild.
Yeah, I'm a little unsurprised by that.
So now we have GanonsGoneWild doing the mountain checks that Flipheal has already done. Probably going to find that Moon Pearl very, very soon.
Definitely. It would be shocking if GGW suddenly went somewhere else. Especially there aren't a lot of places left to go. Another interesting thing is that will mean new checks for us. Likelihood is that GanonsGoneWild will at least take a peek into the front of Tower of Hera. Don't know if they'll choose to finish the dungeon, but surely will leave a cage.
Meanwhile, we do have this Thieves Town check on Flipheal's side.
GanonsGoneWild showing a nice bit of tech there, just getting the spin speed to be able to rush up the mountain, lifting a bomb to quicken the walk.
Yeah, that's something I don't see very often, but it is a great technique to just get up that little bit faster.
Yeah, if you're familiar with runs of the vanilla game, you wouldn't see it there because in the spots where it would make sense to do it, you wouldn't actually have a bomb yet, unless you prefer to get your bombs from the back of Sahasrarla's closet. But either way, it's not really relevant, because you'd still have to menu, and it wouldn't be worth the menu.
GanonsGoneWild with a nice bomb jump, and Flipheal taking an intentional death to death warp back to the starting of the dungeon.
And as expected, GanonsGoneWild will be showing us at least the start of Pendant Hera, so we'll see if Flipheal is getting away with missing some garbage, or if it just compiles the issues.
Well, this big key does mean that we can continue progressing through the dungeon.
And understandably, GanonsGoneWild does choose to leave, and meanwhile Flipheal finding the flippers.
The flippers are important this time because Swamp is a crystal. However, we've already seen GanonsGoneWild doing most of the flippers checks outside of that dungeon, so they're not too important to have early.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Flipheal just continues heading to the south loop, which is understandable. I'd expect once that's done, there's a decent chance we should see Flipheal probably head into Eastern Palace, at which point the mirror and hopefully the boots will follow. GanonsGoneWild is going to be heading into the Village of Outcasts area, and so we'll get our chance to see, is he going to follow up into Skullwoods, get that bow, or potentially just head south? A lot could happen here.
Going north. And yes, I was going to say that I think we're finally seeing our first overlap after our initial overworld checks. Our runners have chosen very different routes, but if you look at their items, they don't have all that much different from each other. The bow versus the mirror are the large differences, plus the flippers.
Yeah, so this divergence, the sheer amount of different opportunities that have already happened, could also lead to just kind of a routing concept like I like to think of, where it's harder to be bold the less you have left to do. So when Flipheal gets that mirror, we might see them in a position where they want to head up the mountain and go check Pendant Hera, and if something big is there, that could actually sling things back the other way. Meanwhile, GanonsGoneWild does get that bow, and so they will be moving on.
And as you mentioned earlier, Flip is heading over to Eastern, going to do Eastern before going into Saha's back room there, into his closet, which I see a lot of runners doing when they're going to plan on finishing Eastern first, and they have the items required to do it.
Yeah, that is a completely sensible thing to do. Most of the time, you're not going to get anything that makes Eastern faster from Sahasrarla's closet. It can happen, and when you do, you might be kicking yourself, but in the long run, it just saves a little bit of walking, and that itself can be worth it. GanonsGoneWild, meanwhile, heading for the northern Darkhold checks. I'm going to be interested to see if they decide to maybe do a jump and get ahead of things. But no, it looks like they're going to be running back to the village. With no hammer, I'm actually a little surprised that GanonsGoneWild didn't take the opportunity to bail on the Dark World temporarily and go finish Crystal Eastern with that bow. However, it does ensure that if there's anything immediately important available in the Dark World, that it isn't missed.
Yeah, the choice between completing the Crystal Dungeon and doing the Village of Outcast checks is an interesting one. One of the things to note is that if they do find the hammer here in Village of Outcast, which we know is not there, but they don't, they will be able to route Pod in with Eastern Palace all at once. It is an interesting question, though. Where is that hammer?
Yeah, we're definitely at a point where we don't have a large number of unchecked possibilities in terms of what's logically available, but we'll see. At this point, I'm kind of surprised the hookshot hasn't shown up either, because both of those are kind of mutually locking East Death Mountain as well as Dark Death Mountain.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to have to find at least one of them coming up soon-ish.
And GanonsGoneWild decides after the front four of Thieves Town to not take the risk of isolating the big chest and just leaves, which is understandable. That can be a very tough call, because if there's nothing in the big chest, then you want to just do it one trip. But on the other hand, you could potentially throw the whole run away.
That chest is also nowhere near the front of the dungeon, so if you decide to leave it, you're not coming back for a good while, because that's just way too much time for a single check.
Yeah, I think in a qualifier scenario, especially with GanonsGoneWild having only finished 3 qualifiers so far, wanting to take the safer route, just be willing to come back to Village of Outcasts, I think that's probably wiser in his position. Meanwhile,
Flipheal did the same
Flipheal.
thing as well earlier. Oop! Flip shot one too many arrows there at the Armos Knight, accidentally killing the one that he had prepped, but still got a pretty good fast kill there. What happens there is if the last Armos Knight turns red, and when that happens, it will recover all of its health. So if you've done any damage to it, you'll have to do the damage again. However, if you can get the kill relatively quickly after killing the second last Armos Knight, it will never go red, and you can just keep the damage previously done.
Yeah, and here we're seeing something new. The blacksmith turn-in, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Now, I believe this is definitely new. Flipheal has picked up that mirror. Oh, the bug net.
Oh, well, there we go. So, speaking of new things, we'll also be seeing K45 pretty soon. Now, Flipheal's floating to 4. Kind of curious as to what play this is going to be. Looks like Flipper's checks, perhaps.
Yes. Yep. Looks like it. And here's the KF45 check. Have to leave that chest behind because the chest doesn't like this cave.
So, in terms of current rankings, Flipheal has a spot where they have a decent chance of placing in the top 32 seed-wise. And right now, this is their 5th race, and if it were to go poorly, it would just be the drop score. So they stand to be able to take some risks. If you're Flipheal, do you consider going into Ice Palace? You have Bombas in the Cane of Samaria, so that is a somewhat lower time cost if it's a no-go. What would you do in that spot?
What to do now is, yeah, as you said, it's an interesting scenario. Ice Palace is completable knowing our glitches. The question is whether it'll be logically completable due to the items that we have. depending on its key layout. Oh, Flipheal has dropped the good bee to throw a bottle into the water and get another good bee.
Trading a bee for a bee is always very annoying to me. It's like, just let me have a potion, please.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, I really don't know about the Ice Palace play. It's an interesting question. We'll see if a runner does it. The only other thing that I noticed was that Flipheal did pick up a red boomerang from Hobo, which GanonsGoneWild skipped. But in the end, that's not going to be a very important item.
Yeah, not quite. So from the perspective of these runners, based on everything we've seen, we're looking at a potential choice of going to pod without the hammer, which that's probably one of the safer plays. They could do Thieves Town, just finish it out, see the back. In Flipheal's case, after finding those boots, we'll probably see a lot of the more immediate boots lock checks, if I had to guess. But otherwise, it's starting to look like it could be time to take a big risk, either go into a dungeon that you can't necessarily clear, or have to choose another pendant. Which also means, depending on which one or ones pay off, we could be seeing some very wildly fluctuating finishing times for the larger group.
Yeah, so a seed like this, where, at least from what we're seeing on screen, it makes it a little rough for a lot of the runners for a qualifier, because whether or not they make it into the main tournament depends on how well they do compared to others in each of their seeds. And if they make the wrong play and enter the wrong non-completable dungeon, they can lose a lot of time and therefore lose some points on their overall score.
Now it's being pointed out in chat that Meyer is probably at this point one of the least attractive plays, just due to the fact that you don't have a fire source, so even if something's there, you might not necessarily be able to actually get to it.
Okay, but hold on. I gotta point out that the name of our race room tonight is Hyper Mystery Meyer. It's Mystery. Yes, Mystery Meyer. Now, that has absolutely no impact on the game, but we have early Misery Meyer access.
Yeah, wouldn't that be funny? They reveal at the end the twist in the qualifier was, if you listen to the room name, that's the answer. As if.
Yeah, that would be interesting if the room name actually provided a hint, but it is completely arbitrary and decided long before the seed is created, so they do not have anything to do with each other. But it's always interesting when it actually pans out.
And Flipheal, kind of catching up here in terms of just filling out some overworld checks that we couldn't get to before, but now it's getting a catfish play. Without the flippers, GanonsGoneWild didn't have a strong reason to come over here, so this is something this could be very exciting for Flipheal. And it's not, unfortunately.
That's the second shield that we've seen and not picked up.
Yeah, a lot of runners don't prefer to pick up their shields if they're confident in their ability to stay alive otherwise, because even though it's small, it does generate a little bit of lag to have a shield, so if you can avoid picking one up, often you'll see people happy to just leave them on the ground.
The only other thing I did want to mention, that we were discussing something else at the time, but Flipheal did check Cave 45 and did find Sanctuary Heart. So that heart is the one heart that won't vanish on our runners. The maximum number of hearts is based on a maximum number of full hearts and piece of hearts, but the Sanctuary Heart will always be there. So if the runners don't find that, they will continue getting green 20s until they find that, instead of getting their last full heart.
And meanwhile, in Palace of Darkness, GanonsGoneWild has found the first fire source of the run with the lamp in the big key chest. So suddenly all the dark rooms are in logic. And if people start to think about Pendant Mire, that lamp is going to put the whole dungeon into play as well.
This is a
To
very nice
answer the...
dungeon. I was just
Sorry,
gonna
I
say
was
this is a
just
very
gonna
nice.
go ahead.
You go. You go. You go.
Okay, just to answer the chat question, the bow was in Skullwoods.
I was just gonna say, even though we can't get to the back of this dungeon right at this moment, it really is nice to get the lamp while you're in here. There's that one room towards the back with all of the turtles that can be extremely difficult when you can't see what you're doing. We actually have our 2 runners in the same dungeon for a very short period of time. Pretty much for the first time, I think, since we left Escape.
Yeah, and so interestingly, they also haven't found progression beyond the lamp. So we're going to have to see some kind of interesting play made before long, I would think. Desert is also open to a full clear now, so once the hammer is found, Pod will be able to be finished, and that'll open up Pyramid Fairy. But who knows what'll happen after that? We don't have either of our rods yet. We might need more medallions as well, and that hookshot is still missing in action.
Yeah, I think it's the hammer. At this point, looking at GanonsGoneWild's items, at this moment, I'd be wondering where this hammer is. The hammer just gives you so much, so many possibilities.
Yeah, of course, for the more conservative routers here, I think possibly the worst scenario for a hammer location would actually just be, it could be just kind of chilling in, say, the Thieves' Town attic. That were to happen, then who knows? Actually, I'm not entirely sure about the key logic. I might be making a mistake here, but it could be in Blind Cell, so... if you're routing more conservatively and waiting on that hammer to go to Thieves' Town, that would probably be the most unfortunate place for you.
Yeah, agreed.
So if you've routed as these two have chosen to, they're definitely going to be thinking, wherever it is, I hope I find it first, but please don't let it be there.
So we have the runners checking things the others have already done. So I guess the question now is, where do you go from here? Both runners will have completed Eastern. They'll both now have cleared out the majority of Pod. With that lamp, we can now finish Desert. I don't remember. I don't think we found both items.
I believe you're correct about that. Flipheal actually showing us the hammer jump technique, which is actually going to save just a little bit of time. It's not often that you see that in a non-key sanity randomizer race, but in the times that you have the big key and an extra small key kicking around, that can be useful to be able to pull out.
Yeah, if it's fast, if you're comfortable with it, it can definitely save just that little bit of time. And I'm just looking at our dungeons, trying to figure out where to go from here. After doing Desert, maybe, because you know it's completable, you won't leave anything behind. Everything else starts becoming a bit of a risk. You're going to make a guess at where those items are.
Yeah, it seems that pretty much no matter what you do, at some point in this run you have to just go for it. Unless it's just Desert. And actually, that lamp opening up Desert, that's going to be good for Flipheal. They'll finally be getting the boots.
Oh, that's important. That will actually help a lot. There was one comment in chat that I do want to kind of mention too. When I'm talking about clearable dungeons, I was discussing clearable crystal dungeons. As to that's what the runners are really hoping to target right now. They don't want to unnecessarily go into any pendant dungeons if there isn't anything in them.
Yeah, I don't blame either runner for choosing to avoid the first check in Swamp. It's a totally sensible play, especially if you're choosing to play it safe, but it is rather time consuming. And most of the time, that's not going to pay off. So, the downside is the times it does pay off, if you don't do it, it's such a long run to get back down there.
Yeah, you're right that it definitely hurts in that case. But how often? It's one check. It takes a relatively long amount of time. There are so many other plays that are just worth so much more to the runners and will pay off more often. So I think it makes sense that we don't generally see that. And as we discussed, GanonsGoneWild going to be clearing up this desert palace.
Yeah. So without either Rod and Silvers being impossible to get in this flag set, we'll just be seeing likely tempered strats here. Maybe, probably not, the Cane of Burner used.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with probably not. Tempered spins are very effective in this particular fight.
Yeah, 2 tempered spins will take down 1 Limolus, or 4 slashes in total, and so GanonsGoneWild does get this done fairly quickly. But no progression here. So it's going to be time to take some sort of risk.
So what would you do?
If I was in GanonsGoneWild's exact spot, I would probably just go into Mire because I'm here.
That makes sense.
With it being the green pendant in particular, it has 3 items versus the usual 2, and it chases the idea of the lamp potentially being necessary progression. I've already committed to the pod double dip in this scenario, so that's what I would be thinking. Like, I'm gonna hope that this is useful.
I think that's that makes a lot of sense, especially considering we only have 1 medallion and it happens to open this dungeon.
Yeah, and also for GanonsGoneWild, there's the additional issue that say a somewhat safer, I guess, play like Hera, GanonsGoneWild has already chosen to skip it. So trying to backpedal there, it's like if it's there, then you know I've lost potentially a lot of time already. So you want your decisions to have been the important ones. And so overall, I like what GanonsGoneWild is going for here. I think this is a good, smart play.
Yeah. We'll see in a moment or two if it pays off.
Yeah, that's always the unfortunate thing about randos. Sometimes the smart play isn't the correct play. So all we can do is wait and see what actually happens.
Yeah, you play the odds, you decide based on how long it'll take you to get to the checks, how many checks there are, what items lock them, you try to make the best choices, and in the long run, hopefully your choices will be right, but in any one particular race, sometimes it just doesn't turn out that way.
Very true. And when 78 other people are running, that goes double, I'd say.
For sure. We're actually seeing a bit of Cane of Samaria strats for additional damage against the Lanmolas on Flipheal side.
Yeah, that was very well done. So in Flipheal's case, I kind of expect to see them follow up on the boost checks first, which might free them up to pursue a different path. Potentially an Ice Palace gamble, or maybe even just going up to Hera, having not found that mirror earlier.
I'm very curious what's an Ice Palace, just because we had access to it relatively early, even though we can't finish it without that hammer, and potentially, depending on the key logic, this could be a whole bunch of different scenarios there.
And actually, I guess I get to stand corrected here. Flipheal is heading straight into Mire, so that potentially makes things exciting for the restream. GanonsGoneWild has a few more checks done just due to finding that mirror earlier, but if this sends them both on the path, this could easily just keep the restream nice and even.
For sure, it's always good for us as viewers and as commentators to have those close races. We are seeing GanonsGoneWild go to the back to get that green pendant. It is a little bit of a long walk to go get it, but if it turns out to be something, that's just so much of a longer walk to come back here.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with, you go ahead and go back to get your green pendant here because it's an item anyway. You've already committed to this play, and you haven't found anything major yet, so you better hope you're getting something out of it.
And that's the other thing. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. So we're actually seeing the more normal vanilla strats for getting through these few dark rooms, because without Fire Rod, spooky action is off the table.
Yes, and my train of thought, I found it, and that it's that we really don't have that many item locations left. As we were discussing, everything at this point is a bit of a gamble. Pick a dungeon and go for it. So it's not really any less likely that it's here than anywhere else at this point. Getting cape strats definitely makes a lot of sense with Tempered Sword. One of the nice things about cape is while you're swinging your sword, your magic bar doesn't really go down. So as long as you keep swinging, that cape will last a lot longer than you think it will. And there's the green pendant. Now here's the question: do you go turn that in now, or do you try to check that later?
So I would say I would go straight for it. I mean, once again, you got to commit to the play you made. There's no getting back the time.
Yeah, I fully agree. And that's what we're seeing. It's hammer and hook shot. Like, one of them has to come up at some point, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Mushroom.
Sahasrara says, "I refuse to give you an answer." So we get a little more suspense here. The drum roll goes on a little longer.
Now here's the other question: do you? Oh, we can't. I was gonna say, do you fake powder first, but we don't have hammer to get over there.
Yeah, you could use the mirror, but that would be very inefficient. Oh, and that's an unfortunate find. So I think I would expect to see at least one of these runners just double down and go for another pendant. Which, granted, with Skullwoods being one, that leaves few options. GanonsGoneWild does choose to just go ahead and turn away from that, and having skipped Terror earlier, understandable. Is that going to be showing us the Ice Palace move?
So hammer and iced tea room.
Very well could be.
That would be such a rude place for the hammer.
Yeah, but for now, we just get to enjoy the suspense. It'll also be interesting to see once Flipheal gets the bad news about the mushroom, what play they choose to make. Do they fall into Ice Palace? Do they, not having touched Terra yet, just decide to head up there in hopes of finding Fire Rod and being able to make the Desperation Ped pull?
Well, the thing for GanonsGoneWild is that they did make an initial Tower of Hera play, but didn't get a single item.
Yeah, so 2 items are live up there, which, like I said before, GanonsGoneWild skipped it, so I understand committing to the skip. I think that's completely sensible, the way this has been going.
And here comes the Icebreaker, very nice and fast.
Yeah, that was excellent execution of that trick, getting through, and with a small key, there's no need to worry about getting stuck.
That's always the little fun part, where people get stuck with that, forgetting that you will need a key. Huh.
And with the big key, we have pretty much the maximum number of checks about to happen here. And to answer the chat's question, I believe it's 128 runners will qualify in total.
Yes, that sounds right to me. Still not finding anything here in Ice Palace. Still no.
So we have finally seen... I'm gonna feel bad for both of them if this ends up being just Thieves Town was the answer, so I'll cross my fingers that some big flashy gamble was needed.
Yeah, we're starting to run out of things to check.
No, I like Flipheal taking that route to just jump into the water and swim over to get to King's Tomb. It's going to be very fast. Unfortunately, we know it's not going to lead to anything. And it seems that the Ice Palace play, once again, was a bust.
Yep, Ice Tea Room did have only a compass, so no hammer there.
And now GanonsGoneWild is going back to Hera, fully committing to the Thieves Town avoidance, which I understand that because at this point you just gotta be hoping that it can't have been there. Flipheal having found the mirror late, I'm kind of wondering if they're going to instead run to get K45 filled in, and then perhaps get the first chest of swamp. That's also possible.
Yeah, it's 2 checks. There's 2 checks up here in Tower of Hera, so it's not like one has a higher likelihood of having something important at the moment.
And it does look like Flipheal is going for more or less what I predicted. Or it's possible that Flipheal is deciding it's been put off long enough and we're finally going to see back at Thieves Town.
Getting a bomb jump here from GanonsGoneWild for the map. I think that means Moldorm is holding our last item for this dungeon.
Unless that small key shows up. I believe Hera Base is still out there.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, could be right there too. This seed's gotta feel bad for the runners too. You're sitting here going, I still don't have hammer, I still don't have hookshot. It's an hour into the seed. Like, what did I miss something? Is everyone else doing what I'm doing? There's 77 other runners. What if one of them made the right play here? Or 5 of them made the right play, because I believe everyone's score is based on the top 5 runners' times.
Oh yeah, this seed has definitely been a tough one in terms of decision making. A lot of places opened up very quickly, and with no hammer, there's not a clear-cut, easy route to choose.
So what if Swamp Palace is where both items are? get that hammer in the first chest and continue deeper and find the hook shot.
Honestly, I wouldn't know what to think. I'd say if you found it early, maybe consider leaving, but on the other hand, you already committed the time to go in there, so probably just stay.
Well, it is a crystal, so at that point they would finish it, but that would feel so bad finding those there, because I know from the way I would be routing this, that would probably be my last locations.
And interestingly, we have seen Flipheal decide finally enough is enough. I'm just going to do Thieves Town. So whether or not there's progression here, we'll at least finally know. Because Harrowshore wasn't the answer, so now at this point we're down to back of Thieves Town or beginning of Swamp.
So I guess here's the question: what do we find first, the hammer or the hookshot? You want to take a guess there?
You know what? I'm going to go goofy with this. I'll say let's let people have what they like just this once, and let's have it be the fire rod.
Oh, fire rod.
So that would open up only one check here. But no, I think the hookshot's probably the more realistic one.
That's interesting, because I was thinking the hammer. So we'll see what pans out. Which one of our two major progression items will come up first?
Yeah, both would open about equal numbers of checks, I'd say. So it's really not clear cut either way. But I'm thinking hookshot. Also, I will just assure the chat here, the comment that was made above was not spoiling the result of the race. It was just a little bit of a joke that somebody was making.
So we're going to see the blind fight here. So the one thing for any newer viewers, you're probably going to see a very clean fight here. Blind will do the exact same thing the first time you enter this room every single time you play. So if you know where to stand, you can see right now, you saw Flipheal get all 3 hits, didn't get hit, knows to stand up here, drop down a little bit, probably get 3 clean hits right away, and knows exactly where to stand to get this a very clean, very easy fight.
Yeah. And so when the blind script finishes, you can see just how well. Oh my goodness, it's a fire rod.
You called it.
How about that?
So
you know, the funny thing is, it's still not absolutely the pedestal, because we still haven't seen the beginning of Swamp Palace.
Yeah, and if that's the hammer, wow.
But yeah, if I'm these runners, you absolutely need to go finish your pendants and pull the pedestal, because if you spent all the time doing those other pendants for nothing, then you're in a lot of trouble. So you can't get that time back. They need to follow through. So that's what I expect to see. The front of Skullwoods has been checked. Both items are found in Skullwoods. So the fire rod opens just one check, and that's the pedestal.
We do have Flipheal going somewhere else.
In Flipheal's case, hasn't finished Terra yet. So you can't pull the pedestal without the pendants. So Flipheal's just doing their due diligence. Now, interestingly enough, GanonsGoneWild is going to be running down to the Swamp Palace beginning. So this could be interesting. It could be very possible that this is not pedestal after all. Of course, even if progression is there, still could be pedestal. We're not one item from Go mode by any means.
No, I think one of the things the runners probably wouldn't particularly want to see right now is the book, because then we'll have to go run to both tablets to go check them. So here it is, front of swamp. Will this be something? If it is, GanonsGoneWild is going to pick up a good bit of time, I think, on a lot of the other runners.
So it was actually pointed out in chat that due to the particular key logic of Thieves Town with this layout, that the fire rod was actually technically hammerlocked. So that's a good catch. So there will be progression here in Swamp, and I would say that probably will be the hammer, if I had to guess.
Hammer! Oh my god! It's here! It's the hammer!
And
That
Ganon's
is
going
so
on wasting no
rude.
time.
That is
Just
so rude.
heading into the back.
Now here's the thing. If Hookshot is back here, wow. Wow.
And that is what we're seeing here is just a bit of an unfortunate downside of the choice to understandably make that skip. Like I had said, it's time consuming, it's just one check, but the time when it's right, that can make or break everything.
Yeah. This is something for sure. So we need a hook shot, and we need potentially a medallion? And ice run.
Yeah, we're getting there, but it still feels pretty far away. But it'll have to show up soon, the next piece of progression.
We did open up quite a bit with that hammer. We can now... We have Thieves Town completed. Was there an item in the big chest?
I have to say I apologize. I don't remember about Thieves Town's items.
Okay,
Since we
I
saw
don't
it kind
either.
of split, I lost count. Oh, the big chest self-locked. Thank you, chat.
Yes, thank you very much, chat.
And that also explains quite well why the without the small key available, you couldn't have the hammer on the pedestal there.
Just a comment that did complete a prediction with channel points that was in chat. That hammer was found in a crystal dungeon. So congratulations to anyone that decided to join in on that.
Good call.
The majority actually went somewhere else, so if the people who got it right got a lot of points from that. But... let's see what's here on the left side of Swamp. Speaking of predictions, we have a new one. Is this a ped seed? Yes or no?
You know, I'm gonna say yes, just for the sake of both of these runners.
Well, I think I was gonna say yes, but you know, oh, GanonsGoneWild accidentally pushed the block in the wrong direction. I'm going to say, I guess you said yes, so I'll say no. I had to think about that for a second.
That'll work.
Mothula on Flipheal's side. One of my least favorite bosses in the game, because when it's flying over spikes, it can't take damage. Ooh, there's a lot of people voting no on that channel point seed. Could get a lot of points by voting yes. But nothing further there in Swamp. We're going to need Hookshot to finish that dungeon.
Yeah, so I would expect GanonsGoneWild to finish either Ice or Pod next. Just stay on the Crystal path for now. Wasting no time heading to Ice Palace. That makes sense. Flipheal, unfortunately still looking for that second item in Skullwood. It's not in the back though. We know it's the Cane of Berna.
And here's the pet play. We're going to get an end to this prediction very soon. Just as it's actually timing out. Ooh, 20 rupees. It is no.
Okay, so what you need to do there is you just head to the Trinex fight, and then you throw the red rupee as hard as you can at the Firehead, and hope it works.
Oh, no pet. Pet is dead. So where's this hookshot? It's got to be. I think it has to be Hammerlock now, right? Because we've seen everything that's not Hammerlock.
Yeah, we've seen absolutely everything that didn't require either the hammer or the hookshot, and obviously it doesn't lock itself. So honestly, Paradox Cave would be a good candidate. There's also, let's see, with what they have, they can get Spike Cave. That Book of Mudora opens up some possibilities. I'm sure they're just thrilled to find more fetch quests at this point.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying that the runners didn't want to see. But I have a feeling about Eastern Death Mountain as well. You can tie that in with the Eastern Dark Death Mountain. There's another 3 checks up there as well. Not counting Spike Cave.
Yeah. So we could even potentially get into Turtle Rock and just find it in there.
Yeah. Oh, that would be, you know, find Hookshot in Turtle Rock. Find Hammer in Swamp to find Hookshot in Turtle Rock to find Ice Rod in Swamp.
You never know. I would like to think, for everybody's sake, that it won't be quite so cruel after how difficult it was to choose to get that hammer. Flipheal, unfortunately, has not gotten the hammer yet, and so we'll be revisiting Ice Palace as well.
I fully get that play. Both runners made it, and I see it. There's just so many more checks here in Ice Palace than there is in Swamp. Again, it's GoneWild going to use that potion, because this is a lot easier with Fire Rod.
Yeah, and I think something that has changed since the Icebreaker trick was discovered, with the Cane of Samaria, it costs a little less to do a fruitless, hammerless ice dive than it used to. Just a little.
Yep, that little bit. It's also a lot more consistent than the bomb jump for a lot of people. There's just less loss if you get it wrong, and you can readjust much easier.
And so GanonsGoneWild, not doing anything too surprising here. These are crystal dungeons, you have to do them anyway, so just getting them done. That makes a lot of sense, there's no reason not to. Now, I guess one possibility is GanonsGoneWild might choose to potentially go for the Hammer Peg's Hail Mary before heading up the mountain, but I don't expect it. But otherwise, off the mountain, that's pretty much like the one check left.
Well, GanonsGoneWild does not yet know that Pet is dead. However, that is a lot of time spent for one check as opposed to going to East Death Mountain and having 7, 10 overworld checks.
Okay, and so Flipheal finally knows for sure where the hammer is and is going to be heading to it. GanonsGoneWild getting a nice, clean series of mimic kills.
Yep, and we're gonna see the back of this dungeon now. We're gonna finally see that turtle room I was referencing. What was it, a half hour ago?
Yeah, it was definitely quite a while ago. Fortunately, with the lamp, there's not going to be any issue there at all. Even without the lamp, the fire rod would make it simple enough. Just would hold left and then press down as you enter the room. Goes pretty easily after that. But yeah, with tempered sword, no sword beams to interfere. Just gets it done nice and quickly.
That's one of those interesting cases that when you're learning the game, sword beams are so helpful because you can safely damage enemies from a distance. But once you're really comfortable with the game, sword beams get in the way more than they actually help in a lot of cases.
So, this is the first time in the big community tournament, this particular one, that Quick Swap has been enabled for all racers. And GanonsGoneWild showed us one of the new strats that you can do that normally wouldn't be worth a menu. Switching to Burna in the hallway before the Helmosaur fight, and doing a Burna dash to get through the room just a little more quickly than you'd be able to using Hammer.
It's a lot of those little time saves that you see from our runners that can make a difference in the long run. It may not make a difference every single game, but you stack a few of those together, save 5-10 seconds here, 5-10 seconds there, even 2-3 seconds here, 2-3 seconds there. It can add up to a big difference overall. I missed it, but apparently Flipheal had some slashes aimed at that hammer location.
That's understandable. Unfortunately, empty treasure chests have just a little too much HP to deal with. So, GanonsGoneWild is finally going to be showing us East Death Mountain.
Yes, I think this makes a lot of sense. Oh, can also check Ether Tablet on the way over, because we did find that book. It's a good time to route this in. We're here. Bottle.
Well, nothing major, but, you know, can't hurt to just have an extra safety just in case, right? Especially with hard pull.
Yeah, hard pull, green mail, 13 hearts. I definitely wouldn't say no to an extra red potion.
Sometimes unexpected things do occur.
And here comes Spiral Cave. I think it's very clear to all our viewers why this is called Spiral Cave.
I don't know, you should tell me. In detail. I'm just kidding.
And bombs. Okay, well. We still have some more checks here.
So something that's interesting is you can definitely feel that GanonsGoneWild knows that they have unfortunately lost a lot of time due to their gambles not working out. So he's actually not gone to Pyramid Fairy, which is accessible at this point. If something big is there, that could actually be a chance for Flipheal to maybe catch up.
Empty bottle, and yes, that's definitely something that could still come up. 2 locations. I do think that this East Death Mountain check is definitely the most dense and highest likelihood of having our items, especially because we need 2 items at minimum, and there's one of them.
Well, there we go. At least everyone can breathe a sigh of relief that there's not going to be a TR double dip happening.
Yeah, hey, we don't have an ice rod hunt. Oh, is Hookshot our go mode? Potentially.
Potentially. It could also very well be a medallion.
Yes, I'm not really sure the last time I saw a hookshot go mode. That feels like that doesn't happen very often. Nope. GanonsGoneWild taking the wrong cave entrance, going into the shop. Okay, we have a comment in chat saying that this seed is off the hook. I have to shout that out.
Hey, there we go. I like it.
Okay, rupees and rupees.
So fortunately for GanonsGoneWild, with that ice rod, even if the hook shot were to end up being in Pyramid Fairy, that's really not going to be that much of an issue time-wise. At worst, an extra mountain trip could happen.
Yep, as we get to check to the first hookshot cave location. This is bonkable with the boots.
To answer the chat question, hookshot can be anywhere in TR because Turtle Rock does not require the hookshot.
Nope, you just have to. Oh, there's Bombos. So it will be a hookshot go mode. And what I was just going to say is that you just have to pay a little bit more attention when you're in that fire rod room because you have to go the opposite direction that you're used to. Unfortunately, the faster way requires you to hookshot off the platform or you won't make it to the door in time before the first torch goes out.
So right now there are actually not an awful lot of checks left, so there's a very high chance that hookshot is going to be here because there's Pyramid Fairy and there's here. And so that's like 2 versus 5.
I think there's also Spike Cave.
You are correct about that. We have not seen Spike Cave. Thanks for catching that. And
Oh, and we
Gen's
have a
gone
comment in
wild.
chat, Magic Bat.
Oh, Magic Bat as well. Well, we don't have powder, so
Oh, that's true. Well, I
that
mean,
could show up.
we could find powder somewhere in here. As you mentioned, there aren't that many checks left.
Oh, no Hammer Pegs, Bombos Tablet. You're right.
Yeah,
I
Bombos.
apparently
Yeah.
wrote a few locations out of my mind. I suppose wishful thinking on everyone's behalf. I did want to point out, GanonsGoneWild went the correct way around to do the torches. It's very easy, especially when you're feeling pressure from, say, a qualifier. You don't have hookshot, you're still looking for it, yet you go around the way you would use the hookshot to do the faster strat, and then you feel like, oh, well, now I get to ride.
Yes, I think pretty much every runner's done it at some point. You're on autopilot. You hit up because you know it's faster, and then you realize once you're moving that it's too late. Oh, speaking of platforms, GanonsGoneWild got bounced off and had to take an extra trip.
Yeah, that Red Stalfos really likes to be a troublemaker.
We are seeing the Ice Palace completion over on Flipheal side.
Flipheal will be making short work of this, and will almost certainly be heading up to the mountain next. So given the extra work that Flipheal did to get the ped finished, finding the boots late, I still have to say they've done a really impressive job of just keeping pace with GanonsGoneWild here. This has definitely been a tight race in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there was just such route divergence at the starting, but this particular seed has just led everyone to the same place just because hammer in the first check in Swamp is not something that anybody planned on doing early.
Yeah, it's definitely possible that some of the more thorough routers will have just done it, just to be sure, and those people will be glad they did. If applicable, I don't know. I actually don't even have the race room open. I don't want to know. It's more fun to just be in the dark about that.
I do have it ready for later once a runner completes, but I'm not looking as we're focusing on these runners right here. And Mimic Cave, can it be in here? We'll see. Nope. Green 20, probably one of our hearts or heart pieces. I wonder what we're short on. Do we still have one heart container, or are we short some heart pieces?
I'm not sure, but I believe the Sanctuary Heart hasn't been found yet. So it might be that.
K45. It was K45.
Oh, okay. Nice catch. I tend not to remember the little things like that.
Yeah, that one.
Well, it looks like Flipheal has gotten the Cold Star fight done, and so we'll see where they head next. It's possible, given all the gambles they've done, they might choose to do some of the more inconvenient, out-of-the-way things, but Mountain's still probably the most likely play.
We are aware of what's going on screen. We will be looking into it. But
Alright, so Flipheal is going to put off the Mountain just a little longer, so we're going to get to see some new checks after all.
so we are getting the laser bridge checks on GanonsGoneWild side.
So we can safely rule out the Bombos tablet, that having just been a junk item.
We are about to have the Trinex fight on GanonsGoneWild side.
You can hear that boss music, and just based on the bounces on the edge of the screen, you can tell that GanonsGoneWild is getting the correct number of slashes in, so this is going to be a nice quick fight. Meanwhile, Flipheal is going to be able to show us Pyramid Fairy. Doing the dash strat is going to be heading to show a little bit of a time save. Unfortunately misses it. Oh, that's unfortunate.
So GanonsGoneWild did pick up the half magic, but it seems has not picked up the hook shot yet. Just to confirm in everything else that was going on there. Good kill on Trinex, and going to be yeah, I think Pyramid Fairy is probably a good play at this point. We're going to see it from Flipheal before we see it from GanonsGoneWild.
Alright, Flipheal trying the strat again. And it gets it this time. Very good. You know, I gotta say, it always impresses me when I see people do that, because that's like the one major piece of tech I've never learned. I just find it too scary.
The thing is, it does save a little bit of time if you get it right, but it loses a lot of time if you get it wrong. We found magic powder. Magic pad is now open.
Here. And that's looking like our likely culprit here. Maybe hammer pegs. GanonsGoneWild seems to have not done spike caves, so that could also still be there.
Yeah, I think at this point, when you find powder, you know you haven't done hammer pegs, and now Magic Bat is open too. Go over and do them together. But we got another fetch quest.
Eventually, one of those has to pay off, right?
Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe it's in Spike Cave. It's interesting that Flipheal is not going up to Death Mountain and is doing hammer pegs first.
Yeah, I think this makes sense for Flipheal. I mean, last location of that hammer, Flipheal has to be hoping that something is in an unintuitive spot. And there's our hook shot and hammer
Oh,
pegs.
there it is.
So that Flipheal will probably head back to Swamp Palace, and at the very least will save a mountain trip, presumably getting the Ice Rod, and just being able to do TR and run over to GT. So that will be somewhat convenient, at least. Of the two of them, I'd say GanonsGoneWild is still ahead. Is going to be doing this catfish check that's not unfortunately going to pay out, but will almost surely be following up with the hammer pegs play. After all, there's just not much left.
Yeah. I think you're right that that's what we're going to see, but as you said, there's just so little left to check. What else are you going to do? This actually kind of makes sense. Come up here since you're in the area, get catfish, mirror, and then flute over to the village and get the village checks out of the way. Otherwise, you're going to be stranding catfish pretty badly.
Yes, both of these runners have made a lot of really solid routing decisions throughout. Unfortunately, just not really working out with those, with the pendants being empty, other than Skullwoods having that bow. But still, their actual play and execution throughout has really been very good. So it just goes to show that sometimes you just get a little unlucky and it happens. GanonsGoneWild is going to be getting into go mode in just a few seconds. We'll be following Flipheal in the swamp, and then GanonsGoneWild will be the first to head into GT.
Yep, at 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 50 seconds, GanonsGoneWild is finally in go mode. What a seed. So we'll just see the Swamp Palace completion. Flipheal is in here still looking for the Ice Rod, but GanonsGoneWild will be able to go mode straight past the very few checks that are left.
Yeah, with no silvers on the table, there's no reason to open extra chests. GanonsGoneWild has everything, so has no need to find other stuff. Flipheal, fortunately, having already done the rest of the swamp, isn't going to find anything too time-consuming here. Those checks were all very quick, so they didn't really add much time overall, just a few seconds each.
Yeah, GanonsGoneWild even has half magic. So there's really nothing left. The only thing left is Ether, which is not going to really do anything at this point. Ooh, that big key was on Argus. So there'll be interesting to see if Flipheal goes back in to make that one last check. No! That is unfortunate. It makes a lot of sense, but it's unfortunate.
Yeah, you have to commit at this point. There's just not much that can be done about that. It just happens.
He's making the play because he's here. He knows he only needs one more item. Doesn't want to come all the way back after going up to Turtle Rock because Ice Rod is in this chest. Because that would be a huge time loss.
Yeah, no way to save your portal with Swamp being mirror locked, so there's no way you'd want to take that risk unless you're just willing to bet the run, which it would be understandable either way, but can't fault anyone for just choosing to get it. Oh, I like what Flipheal's doing here, trying to lose the shield. That's very good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to comment on too. But we did find our third shield. And there's the seventh crystal for GanonsGoneWild.
I wanted to comment, I also find of interest that GanonsGoneWild went for the Ice Rod strat there. Some people prefer the Fire Rod when they have a choice, it being a little easier to aim. So I find that kind of interesting.
I know some people just prefer the Ice Rod in some cases. It handles a little bit differently in that particular case than the Fire Rod, so if you're comfortable with it. I know a few runners who just can't do the Fire Rod one, but can do the Ice Rod one.
Yeah, it's totally down to individual preference. I just haven't seen that myself often. I thought that was pretty cool.
So, we have a bunch of people guessing numbers in chat already. So, I guess it's time to discuss this. There are 22 checks in GT. We're going to be taking guesses as to where the big key is. Do you have any normal number that you guess, or any location? SailorNet?
I don't really, so I'll just throw out a random one. 12.
I always say 8, so we have that. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, now the real question is, whose big key guess is going to end up being their collection rate divided by 8?
Interesting.
I will say, by the time they're done, I'm not going to remember to think about that, so please don't expect a payoff for that joke.
So, Flipheal is on the mountain, does have the Ice Rod. Missed the exact go mode time, but is also in go mode. Probably within about the last minute.
Yep, so Flipheal's just a go modable TR behind. So that's going to be a few minutes, but given everything that's happened here, that's not too bad. Like I said, Flipheal was late to the boots, and additionally just did that extra Skullwoods play in the ped pool to get that 20 rupees. So totally happens.
Yep, we are seeing a left side start from GanonsGoneWild. I think that was the first check, right? I didn't miss one.
Let's see, there's what, key on the torch, so yeah, that would be one. I believe GanonsGoneWild was going for the strat where you mirror here. So we'll be seeing Hope Room next if the big key's not in this room.
Yeah, I just looked away for 1 second, so I wasn't sure if I missed something. I looked at the Flipheal side. So yep, that's 5.
Yep, 5 checks in, and we're just going to be heading over to the right side now.
Then the question here is, do you go to Compass Room and then go left side, or do you continue on straight to Ice Armos?
I think it really depends on the runner and their state of how they feel. Especially in a qualifier like this, when you have a lot of people playing, sometimes people will choose to look at the race time room and try and see if, have other people finished? If so, can I metagame the big key? If nobody's done, maybe I make a different decision. So lots of factors can go into play there. Sometimes people just have a route they prefer and they do it all the time. Some people might do something really different if they feel very behind. But this is a pretty standard play here.
That's 8, 9, 10, 11.
Alright, and it looks like GanonsGoneWild is at least going to get the small key. And is going to be just keeping to the standard.
Okay, so the next check is going to be 12, which is the number you guessed. It's also 8 if you go hope into left side. Because that's the check that's normally 8 for me when I run, so this will be interesting.
That's funny. If it happens to be the big key, we can mutually call it a tie.
No, I'm pretty sure I still lose, but it would just be very interesting if it was here, and it's not.
Well, it's okay. Now we both lose. It's good. So that's kind of a tie, too.
Yep, so that's 12. We do have Flipheal still progressing through Turtle Rock.
GanonsGoneWild getting that nice boomerang strat to get the switch flipped very efficiently.
$13 is a key, not the right key.
So this next room has 4 checks. It's often termed the Randomizer room or the Rando room because in a normal run of the game, there's no reason to ever go in this room.
14, 15, 16!
Alright, number 16.
I'm scrolling up. Miss Julie Winters was the first with 16. Congratulations. And I'm just checking to see if anybody else guessed it. Edda Fred, right at the end there, with 16. Congratulations. Yeah, we do have a comment from someone who guessed, saying it's 2 times their original guess. So, since I guessed 8, do I get half points because I got half of the number?
I would say sure. We can make up our own rules on the fly.
Well, yeah, there's no points involved with this, so that's what it is. But yeah, GanonsGoneWild going up the climb. At the same time, Flipheal has completed his last crystal, getting in all dungeons except Aga seed.
Yeah, so we'll get to see if Flipheal chooses a different GT route, makes up a little bit of time here. Meanwhile, GanonsGoneWild has been, he bought a potion on the way to GT, and so with that half magic, is just kind of going for it. Speaking of the potion, now's a good time for drinking, and gets it done.
Yeah, 1 heart. Yes, that's a great time to go drink that. Very easy to accidentally take a hit, especially in this room right here with the ice and the platforms.
And also made very effective use of that magic, getting to pretty much near full drain it. Now we'll be heading into the Lambo 2 fight.
So that's actually kind of an interesting thing to note. Flipheal does not have half magic, because his last dungeon was Turtle Rock. And in Go mode, you don't necessarily get all the checks. I think it was on Laser Bridge. Yeah, once you get a key, you just move on.
Well, unfortunately, GanonsGoneWild just barely missing the draw on that was Rub's room, but it gets through on the second try.
That happens.
Meanwhile,
it feels bad when it happens.
Not going to be finding the big key immediately, but as long as they mirror, they'll be back on the path.
Yes, just don't continue straight to Ice Armos. That would be probably the worst possible route at this point. Okay, good. GanonsGoneWild waiting there for a second, making sure that they don't despawn all the enemies up here.
Yeah, that's understandable. If ever you're not sure, it's okay to pump the brakes.
If you go up those stairs at the same time you get the door closing jingle, you will despawn the enemies, which can cause some issues. You have to do the climb again. Very quick kill.
Yeah, Moldorn playing nice and GanonsGoneWild taking full advantage of that fact.
And here is Aga 2.
Getting a double there is actually really good. That pattern looked a little tricky to deal with.
Ooh. That was some unfortunate timing. That felt like the Aga ball was a little delayed compared to the clone, so there was no second hit.
Fortunately, on cycle 3, the blue ball played nice, not damaging GanonsGoneWild, so he was able to turn left and get a slash in to get one hit.
There it is. Pretty good fight overall.
Yeah, those patterns were definitely a little tricky, so that was well managed. Meanwhile, Flipheal is heading into the random room and is going to get that big key, so it's just about the climb behind.
Getting it on his check 15, I believe, due to the room and which chests were open. And the Ganon fight. So we unfortunately do not have silvers, so the last fight will be a lot of spinning. Or the last phase.
GanonsGoneWild choosing to take advantage of that cape and half magic to ensure the 1+1 goes through without a hitch. And we'll be moving on into phase 3. Fortunately, these teleports are synced to the seed, at least for your first attempt at the Ganons fight, so we'll be getting no more or less teleports than other players. And then once phase 4 begins, it's just going to be 12 sword spins to get through. You can see that GanonsGoneWild has pulled up a lamp. Definitely doesn't want to lose any more time, and so while it's possible to get it with the fire rod, and I'd say GanonsGoneWild definitely has the skill to do it, just playing it safe by using the lamp here, which is understandable. I'd probably do the same.
Yeah, it's safer in the event that you accidentally slightly miss time. You can really lose a lot of time with the lamp, or with the fire rod, but with the lamp you can just spam it until it goes out and you don't lose all that much magic, even if you didn't have half magic.
Yeah, the lamp is nice and cheap. That's definitely the truth. And with that
My
half
only
magic,
problem
you
is
can just use the fire rod for the rest.
Yeah. That definitely helps with trying to set up triple hits, which can be very tricky, but doing very well. And there is Ganon. Get your GGs in chat. So, crossing this very, very dangerous last bridge. And GanonsGoneWild has finished first on the restream. 13th overall, with a time of 1 hour, 47 minutes, and 6 seconds. I will note that between 1st and 10th, there was an over 20-minute time difference. So I think there were a few runners that got some... There's big gaps between the runners at the starting. Probably a few of those people that checked Swamp. Those that checked Swamp early and those that didn't.
Yeah, this seed was definitely a quite chaotic one, with just so much possible divergence very early. Because even if you were to be in that part of the Dark World early, you didn't necessarily check the Hashla and get that mirror. So it isn't even necessarily that people chose to skip it, so much as that's just how the route went.
Yeah, so I'm taking a quick look here. First place tonight did go to Boy with 1 hour 23 minutes 22 seconds. Pika Pals came in second, 1:26:44, and then there was a 6-minute gap before anyone else finished. So those are some good times for first and second. Just as a frame of reference, fifth place, which is the end of where we kind of end the scoring, was 1 hour 35 minutes. We do have GanonsGoneWild with us in the booth here. GG.
Yeah, GG.
We also do have Flipheal on Aga 2.
Yeah, thanks to Blaine for ruining the Z-score for everybody. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, this was just a garbage seed for a qualifier because there's going to be 4 clowns that go into Swamp Palace with no hammer for 1 check, and this was the seed to do it apparently. So.
Yeah, that was very surprising. I actually agreed with your choice not to do it. Just with how much stuff was open, it seemed a good play to go anywhere else.
Yeah, well, I got the flippers, which and I got the bow, so it seemed like Pod and Eastern was really the thing. And then I got the lamp, which was like, well, that makes Meyer now fully in logic. And then so I'm like, that must be it, right? And then when that didn't pan out, I'm like, well, should I forfeit? So, but yeah, the seed was pretty bad because even if you got the hammer, if you did Thieves Town early, like you had really no reason to go back to hammer pegs, and so that would have just been isolated. So it was pretty rough.
We do have Flipheal here on the Ganon fight now. Let's give him a moment to finish this up. The patterns were a little less consistent here. Well, not a little. Flipheal has hit it a little later and gotten the fire bats. Getting that little freeze on Ganon before the first torch lighting. Onto I think probably about a third of the way through phase 4 here. And that's Ganon. Get your GGs in chat for Flipheal. Flipheal, after crossing this bridge, does finish 23rd overall in our race of 78 runners with a time of 1 hour 51 minutes and 44 seconds. I just have to comment that there's less than a 5-minute difference between our 2 restreamed runners, and there's more than and they're 10 places apart, and there's a 6-minute difference between second and third.
Yeah, times were very interesting with this one.
We do have Flipheal with us now in the booth as well. GG.
GG's.
GG's.
So I guess with both of you here, thoughts on the seed?
Who thought it was a good idea to go to the mountain before Sahashala, hoping for a bow, and then royally get ruined because of that?
So you didn't get the mirror early on, it sounds like.
No, I didn't get my boots till about 40 plus minutes because of that, and then yeah, it just got ugly from there. I felt like I had to make plays, and none of them worked, kind of, and yeah.
So, given what you said to lead into that, that leads me to a follow-up question. If you had gotten the mirror early before your first trip into the Dark World, do you think you would have made that little dip into Swamp just out of safety, or would you have skipped it?
I'm not sure. I think I would have. I'm trying to think because let's see. I would have done Smith Chain. I wouldn't have done Thieves. Like I was putting off Thieves so long to not get the hammer, and this was my 5th qualifier race, and I didn't have much to lose in this one, so I probably would have played safe. I'm usually pretty conservative in these. My main eye was on Pod, so I might not have done it right away, but I probably would have done it much sooner than Hard last location.
Yeah, that's actually something I was thinking about. Knowing that you have a pretty safe spot in the overall scoreboard and can afford to have one that doesn't go so well. I actually thought that that was part of the reason why you were a little less thorough in the initial Light World checks, which unfortunately did lead to a later mirror this time.
Yeah, like I said, it was a little unfortunate, but it just goes to show you how one decision can really warp a seed. But it's still good. I mean, it still finished at a decent. Like I thought I was gonna be like dead last year, so.
Given what the seed was, you both did well. Even though some of your decisions very much didn't work out, all of them made sense, and in terms of your actual play, you both did great.
It was actually really interesting in the early game as well, because after doing the initial overworld clear in Light World, you both took drastically different routes. I think up until somewhere like a half an hour into the game, you weren't in the same dungeons, and there was a period where you had both just cleared completely different checks with no overlap almost. But as you both know, there really wasn't anything in those early checks, so you ended up in the same place.
Yeah, it's weird. The weird thing about the seed is just you got a lot of items that just didn't lead to anything at all. Like the seed gave you early boots after this like big sequence of stuff. Like you got the flute and you got like the mirror. I don't think the boots actually led to anything really at all. Even though you got them kind of early, and then you had like the bow and the flippers to go to Pod, you get the lamp, and then there's just nothing in Mire. Which like I thought, oh, that's why I have the boots, because I need to get the Mire for something, and then there's just nothing there. You even had the medallion. It's like, huh. So the seed just gave you a lot of items that didn't really lead anywhere, and it was just like, oh, I guess you're supposed to do with the first chest the swamp for the 1 in 100 seeds where it's there. But yeah, I just think that that's generally not the right call, because you just lose a lot of time, and the only time it actually matters is if the hammer is locked behind that chest. So I don't know, this is kind of a crap seed.
I do agree with that. I feel like most of the players who are getting the hammer early are people who feel like they either are so good that they can afford the time spent doing that, or they have maybe already had a weak qualifier and they're worried they can't afford another really weak one. Long run, it definitely felt like the better play with how much of the world was open. I like the moves that you both made.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then I think I just got kind of lucky at the end. Because I was like, there's probably something on the mountain, but I was so far done with everything anyway. I was like, let me just get everything done down here. I think I wasn't even gonna go back to Hammer Pegs when I did Pyramid Fairy. I think that's when I saw there was like one finish. But then I got the powder, and I was like, well, I guess I have to do this now that I have 2 items. And yeah, that worked out, because that could have been really ugly for me.
Yeah, in the end, that saved you a mountain trip, which that was convenient.
The one thing I want to ask about Flipheal was the pedestal play. What was going through your head when you made that play?
Well, like I said, when I first found the mirror, I was like, well, this is terrible. because everyone's gonna have the mirror before me. Like I'm gonna be the first to pearl, but they're all gonna do all like the good mirror checks in the dark world. So I was trying to put them off for a while, and then when I finally, I don't know if I did it after Eastern or if I went to Pod first, but I was like, let's see if Desert's boots locked, and then it was, and then when I see the boots at 40 minutes, I'm like, oh no. So I know everyone has these like 20 minutes before me at least. So I was just kind of like, this is my final qualifier anyway, and I had a good spot. So I was like, I kind of got to hope there's something here. And I did have all the pieces for Meyer, I think. I had already went to Pod, maybe. So I was just at that point kind of gambling hard, and then I did Hera, and then when I found the fire rod, I was like, well, I can pull ped now, and I knew the hammer couldn't be behind it, but there was still a shot at the hook shot or ice rod or something being on there, so just kind of kept going with it.
Yeah, overall, this seed it gave you so much access, but not so much to clear with very early. So I would say that just led to a lot of very difficult decisions. What would you say for each of you was the hardest single decision you had to make?
Uh,
I don't know if it was the hardest, but I kind of felt bad when I was near the pod area. I originally wanted to just do pod, but now I was like, after Hype Cave, and I was like, I have the bow, I should probably just do Eastern as a chance or something on the boss. And I had done Sashula, which, I don't know, it was a blessing and a curse, because I had to go all the way back to pod anyway, so it wasted more time. Like, at least if I had done it there, I wouldn't have had to go back for a long time. So that's the only really thing I kind of regret doing this seed.
yeah, I just wasn't sure when to go up Death Mountain because I needed two items, and they could just all be on the mountain, or they might not be. And since one of them was the ice rod, I was like, how much of the rest of the map should I do before going up there? And I mean, the hook shot ended up being on hammer pegs, which I don't know. I know I had a few more things left, but that was pretty close to the last location, so I don't know. I guess I didn't have to double dip TR at least because the ice rod was up there.
Yeah, that was the one nice thing. I had so much cleared. I had done everything except the mountain. So I was like, well, worst case scenario, I could kind of just do Turtle Rock and then do everything on the mountain if worst comes to worst. But on the way, I was like, I should do Paradox. It's pretty quick. And then it just kind of lucked out into the ice rod.
All right. Well, with that, that's all the questions that I personally have. Are there any other general questions that anyone would like to address?
I've got nothing. I think I've went over all of mine as well.
All right. Well, in that case, to both of you, the runners, are there any general comments you'd like to make to finish off this interview?
I could have finished the seed shieldless. I failed at the end. That was very depressing. I tried 3 times to get rid of the shield, and the guy just didn't want to cooperate.
We both appreciated your attempt. That was fun. We liked it.
Yeah, I just hope the next qualifier goes better. Because yeah, this is pretty rough. But oh well, it's rando.
Yeah, this has definitely been a very difficult set of qualifiers in general, and this one was no exception. So I'll be wishing you good luck in your next one.
Thanks.
Yeah, good luck. I'm probably at 5. I was thinking of maybe doing another one if this went well, but this was a train wreck, so I think I might just lay low and stay where I'm at.
Yeah, looking at your current projection, that definitely seems like a good move. You're in a comfortable position, so
Yeah, like definitely did much better than I anticipated. I thought I would probably be like somewhere in the middle, but to even possibly be top quartile at this point, I'm super happy with that. So looking forward to the rest. And good luck on your other race, Ganon.
Thanks.
Okay. So I think with that, we're going to head up into our wrap up here. So I do want to thank both of you again for being restreamed and being here with us. I want to thank our tracker, who was Porcupine Reed, because their work allowed us to commentate and do this much easier. This would be very hard without them.
Yeah, especially in this particular case, with all the divergence happening, it was good to be assured of what was going on.
And yep, I want to say thanks to my co-commentator, Sailor Net, for being here with me.
Yeah, thank you as well. I definitely had a lot of fun working with you and talking about this race. I guess we'll be just about signing off from here.
Yep. So one big thing is I do want to remind anyone who's here to please do follow our runners. They they're going to be running some other races at some point, most likely. So give them some support. It really does help them out. Also give a follow to our other volunteers. The Twitches have all been posted in chat. But also, don't forget to follow this channel right here, SpeedGaming, and SpeedGaming's 2 through 6, because that's where a lot of our races are going to be held. There's going to be a lot of various races for this tournament that are going to be coming up really soon. And if you're looking for some more ALTTPR action, there is a race on SpeedGaming 4 that has recently started. It is part of the daily race series, and it is an inverted key sanity. Otherwise, I just want to say thanks for being here with us, and I hope you enjoyed your time here, and see you next time.
Thanks again for watching, everybody. Good night.